Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. I hope you had a great weekend around here. We had a really nice weekend. We had some outdoor activities this weekend. My son ran a great track meet, broke his own record, broke a school record. That was really fun. And then we actually got to go outside and see some friends this weekend, and that was really, really fun. And it's amazing how we all kind of feel like, is this okay? Can we do this? Is this normal? I'm not really sure. So now we're off to a new week. It is kind of gloomy and gross out, so I'm wearing my bright orange because that puts me in a good mood. And this morning on a client meeting, my client told me I look smart because I'm able to see today. So we're going to see how that rolls. So today I have a guest that I think is really, really smart, and I'm excited to have her join me. So let me tell you a little bit about her. Christy Smallwood is the Chief Strategic Guide and founder of Eagle Eye Strategies. She helps people solve problems strategically to maximize time, effort, and money. Her background includes 25 plus years in media marketing and advertising, consumer behavior, leadership design, executive business coaching, and professional training. She's received multiple leadership and business awards, and most recently received the award for Small Business of the Year through the Chamber of St. Matthews, where we met. Christy's mission is to break the status quo of business as usual, bring order to chaos, clearing the clutter of stinking thinking, spark the inspiration of big ideas and audacious goals for purpose-driven entrepreneurs, and light a fire under their asses to bring it all to life. Christy, I am so excited to have you here this morning. Welcome.
Hi, good morning. And I'm so glad to hear that about your son. That's exciting news because
Thank you.
I've been
Thank you.
paying attention to that on the weekends.
Yeah, thanks. It's been fun. It's exciting. So Christy and I met a few years ago. I was considering joining the Chamber of St. Matthews. I was
Mhm.
kind of new to this whole thing. I was a little nervous. It's an investment, not really of money. Yes, money, but I was more concerned about the investment of time. And Christy is such a great salesperson as a volunteer of the organization. She really talked me into it. And I'm so glad she did. I think that you would agree that the Chamber has really gotten us through this past year, and they pivoted so quickly to virtual events, and we all kind of felt like I have someplace to be, even if it's just at my desk. I have someone to see, I have people to talk to, and not just the networking, but I think the camaraderie of that has been really, really
Those
helpful.
those connections are super important. And a little tidbit, we had already been working on a couple of years ago when I was on the board and was on the marketing committee. We were already trying to figure out how can we be like at the forefront of bringing some virtual options in. And this
Mm-hmm.
was pre-pandemic. And so
Wow.
there was already a couple of those ideas and plans in place prior to this hitting, and all they had to do was just like tap into what we had started talking about before and run with it. So it's always and that's why I love strategy, man. To think ahead of time, thinking it through
Yeah.
before you do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's great. I didn't know that. So that's how they were able to do it so quickly, but they really did a fantastic job. So hats off to them. So, but here
Yes.
today, we're here to talk about you and about strategy and businesses and how you work. So I know I read your bio, but just kind of tell us in your own words a little bit about what got you to where you are today, and why you feel so passionate about having the clients that you work with have a strong strategy.
Sure. So my history also includes like this double dipping of life. I would work in corporate environment, and on the side I would be working with small businesses and franchisees. And so what would happen is that in the corporate environment there's a lot of processes, a lot of red tape, a lot of things that take a long time to get accomplished. Small business can pivot very quickly. They can make changes on a dime, if you will, and usually with a dime. And so the dynamic between the two was vastly different. What I
Mm-hmm.
discovered is I really love working with small business because they're super creative. We're able to do a lot of fun things quickly. And at the same time, they needed the structure that corporate processes could provide to make these ideas sustainable. And so, what I was able to help do with my small businesses is to say, have you thought about this
Mm-hmm.
when doing your big idea? Have you thought about this? And so, part of that, those conversations I would have way back when really came to be a standard for me when I became trained as an executive coach and I started incorporating coaching concepts, so life coaching concepts into marketing strategies. I know it kind of sounds a little strange, but it is a thing, as well as those processes that help people think everything. My version of strategy is just think it through before you do and develop the plan of action to get there, built in with accountability for that. Because we could talk about ideas and dreams and all this kind of stuff, but until you have the plan of action in place that makes sense, is doable within budget, and you've got the resources available to get the things done, your whole life and your community can change drastically. And I'm a real big advocate for transformation in positive ways. I like to see positive growth, positive transformation. And so that's kind of where it kind of fueled from, was my days of seeing how one dynamic can help the other. And I just became this bridge between the two in a lot of those areas. And now in my own business, I make it what I call it immersive. So you when you work with me, you're not getting just a business consultant, not just a business coach, not just a marketing plan. Like, you're getting a full package of things here when I come to the table.
That's true. That's very true. And I think, I know that you started out in marketing, you kind of expanded to overall business strategy. And I like how you've kind of melded those two. Those two pieces of business are so important that they work strongly together. One of the things that I work on in my business is developing that brand personality. So whether they're a large business or a small business, it is important to have a personality. Sometimes that's the personality of the founder, the CEO, the owner of the company. Sometimes it's not. How do you feel about a brand having a personality as part of their strategy, and just how real do you think they should be?
I am so glad this question is out there. I am fully in support of a brand having a personality for a lot of different reasons. So let's think in business sustainability and a succession plan. If the brand has its own personality and can function without the owner day to day, now you have something that is super sellable when you want to have the succession plan, an exit plan, if you will.
Yeah.
So, right, the business can stand on its own 2 feet, almost literally walking around as if it was its own person.
Right.
So I'm real big about that. The other thing I love about a brand having a personality is that it makes it a lot easier and quicker for the general public, whether it be a B2B situation or even consume B2C. People can get it, like gravitate to it. They know what they like to resonate with.
Yeah.
And they will, like, I usually call it like a bug zapper. Like, you bring them in a good way. You're bringing them in quickly. To do that, your personality as a brand needs to be out there, because it's the association, brand association needs to have a personality with it to even somebody want to associate that with something.
Yeah. I like that. That's good. And, we talk a lot about personas. We develop this persona. So even if it's not the owner, it's a person who is behind the keyboard, and that has to translate. There's turnover, people change, the employee changes, but also, some companies have, from a social standpoint, they've got 24/7 coverage. So the personality and sort of the bullet points of what that brand represents, it has to be from person to person. It can't just be whoever's behind the keyboard right then. Although, I'd love your take on this. I think that sometimes with like a customer service angle, so let's say I tweet somebody and I've got a customer service issue, I do like when they put their name or their initials, so that if I get a different answer from someone else later, I know that it was a different person. So from a
Within
customer
the,
service
yeah.
standpoint, right? Yeah. What do you think about that?
I'm in full support of it. In fact, that's what I do with when I need to be the responder. Say I work with a salon. Somebody at 10 o'clock at night is wanting to set up an appointment for their hair for the next day. I will quickly go in and say, hey, give us a call first thing in the morning, or leave a voicemail tonight. Somebody will get back with you right off the bat in the morning. And then I put my name in there so that they know I'm the marketing person, not the appointment setter. And I can help clarify the roles. Because just because you chat it doesn't necessarily mean the right person's going to get your request, especially in small business. Like you don't, right? So there's too many moving parts. If you have an outside marketing person managing your community, you may not get that appointment set. Like,
okay, but can I just ask, who's planning their hair appointment at 10 o'clock the night before? Really? Come on, people. You know when your roots.
You would be surprised.
I mean, my appointments are set for the year. It's going a priority.
It's the person that had this whole last minute thing coming up and they're like, oh, do you have any openings tomorrow?
Right.
No.
That's really funny. Okay, so let's say you're working with a brand new business, someone who's heading out, whether they're got a brick and mortar or they're a solopreneur and they're starting from their kitchen. What what kind of persona do you help them develop when they're developing their strategy? So how would you advise someone out there who's a small business owner who really hasn't done this yet and they need to? What kinds of things would you ask them to think about?
So I'll actually share my process because I was going to circle back around on this persona thing anyway.
Okay.
My process with every new client, whether they like it or not, because this is part of my process, is they do a personality assessment and a core values assessment.
Okay.
So what are the values that are important to you and how through your personality do you express those values? You as the business owner, the decision maker, that kind of thing. Once I get them to understand this tool, this exercise, then I'm like, okay, now let's think about your business. And I make them do the exact same exercise as if it was the business.
That's good. Okay.
So now I've got a personality assessment, what's important to them. And then how then we work through the benefits that somebody, like their target audience. I need to know who their audience is.
Right.
And how the Venn diagram, how does this match up with this? And that perfect spot in between is where the persona then kind of formulates itself.
Right. Right. That's good. And I have found that that's true when I'm working with other, with clients, is to figure out what's my personality, what's their personality. So I have a relatively new client and he always says, oh, if this is going on, I need to know that you're running around with your hair on fire. I'm like, have we met? That's like literally all I do. So it's, but when I have a client who's like, let's talk about this for 3 months and keep putting it on the agenda, I get frustrated. I want to make decisions. I want to move quickly. This industry moves quickly and their industries are moving quickly. And with all of the changes and pivoting and businesses reopening, I have found that those are the kinds of clients I work with best, where we can move at, 150 miles per hour. And then, like I said earlier in the pre-show, by 9 p.m., I can just go to sleep.
Okay. 9 o'clock, I don't think much. That's when I, put on Pinterest and Star Trek and just kind of zone out.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit then. We talked about new business, but let's talk about, how hard is it to switch gears? If you've got a company that's maybe 5 or 10 years old and maybe they're like, I think our strategy's off. I think our branding's off. I don't feel like we're still following any kind of plan. How hard is it? How much of a challenge is it for businesses in general to reassess, to go back, step back and say, are we on brand? What are our objectives? Are we still heading in the right road? Do you find that a challenge or a good challenge?
So, and it was interesting that you asked this question as well, because I have a client now that is going through that. And the funny thing is I put them through the exact same process I do the startup.
Okay.
We go back to the beginning. Does it, and do it again. Has it shifted from what you thought it was before, or has it not? Mm-hmm. And so then if we look at the brand as if, okay, then what about the elements of the brand? So I go back to the foundation. Let's see if it's still solid. Are there any cracks, basically? Has it shifted? Then we work on this foundation, then we build from up. So your current imagery elements, what are the sensory elements to it? Everybody when I say everybody, the blanket everybody tends to think a brand is a logo, and it's not. It's a lot more than that, right? So how do I fully present myself in this business everywhere? That brand association is that foundation of it. Has it shifted? Is the imagery up to date? And we don't have to go with the latest trends of things, but does it look like it's still relevant in this market? And the reason why I bring that part up is I used to work at KFC. And so while I was there, we went through 2 brand updates.
Yep.
The Colonel got a facelift twice when I was there. And that's also part of that process with them as well, is that they went back to the foundation. What is true, what is no longer relevant, what needs to be relevant, what's true, and then they built it from there. So they went from just having a Colonel face with the bow tie and the shoulders of a white business suit
Uh-huh.
to having the apron,
Right.
right? And so there was a lot of things that they did with that, um, and just because apply it to small business as well. Like
Yeah.
every business should be applying those same kinds of activities, tactics, processes. Stop and review every so often.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. How often do you think companies should stop and review?
As far as a strategy goes,
Mm-hmm.
I minimum quarterly. Like you should be doing
Okay.
quarterly reports on things. You
Yep.
should have a once a year deep dive into what are we going to be doing next.
Yep.
And that deep dive determines your next timeline, whether it be a year, 3 years, 5, 20, whatever. And then you just have these regular. But as far as a brand,
Mm-hmm.
think of it like a house. Like every 5 to 7 years, you need to be checking in.
Yeah.
I say 3 now
Okay.
because everything is kind of, we've talked about it. Things are changing so fast and rapidly,
Right.
and right.
Right.
So I'm a big proponent of every 3 years do that brand check in to
Okay.
see if it's still true, relevant, and up to date as far as design style goes.
Okay. That's good advice. Okay, so one last question. I know that we might have some people out there who own a small business or are just getting started or thinking about starting a business. I think there are a lot of people who are like, I don't want to go back to a big office and have a boss anymore. This has been kind of nice. So they're
Right.
thinking about some of that. So for those out there who kind of got the bug to become an entrepreneur, what kinds of things should they be considering right now before they even buy their URL or start creating a company name and a logo?
Uh, you need to really have a succinct answer as to why do you want to do this.
Okay.
And I always tell people too, if it's to make more money, own it.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
That becomes the internal why. Now, why do you want
Hmm.
to do it for others? Because if it's a matter of you want to make money, okay, well, what value are you bringing others while you're making money?
Right.
So once you get those two things really honed in, because as you and I both well know, there are going to be those times when you're like, F this, I'm out.
It's just not worth the money. Yep.
It's just not worth it. And that's usually at 9:30 at night when we're still trying to work and we're running on fumes.
Uh-huh.
And then we wake up the next day going, "Oh, now I remember why I love doing this."
Right.
Right? Because a client, we wake up to that beautiful message that we've made an impact in somebody's life, and it reminds us. Having a succinct, defined why
Mm-hmm.
is super important to keep everything going. Every decision that you make flows much smoother. It's more efficient when you have the why built in.
Yeah.
And it helps your own business owner mindset of, yes, I can really do this every day.
That is great advice. And you're so right about so much of that. So I just want to thank you, Christy, for coming today. And I'm going to share on the screen how to contact you directly. These are Christy's websites, eagleeyestrategies.biz, christysmallwood.com, and smallbusinesssmalltalk.com is Christy's podcast. So definitely, if you are a small business or thinking about starting a small business, or you've had one for 25 years, give Christy a call. Obviously, she knows what she's doing. I'm so glad that you were here today. It was fantastic to get all of this knowledge. I've got a lot of things on my to-do list now for my business. But I really appreciate you being here. And it's always good to see you. I know we see each other through the week on screen, but it's nice to be just you and me. This is kind of fun.
Yeah, we need to actually do this in a longer format, like
Yeah.
in person with caffeine,
Yeah. That sounds fantastic, doesn't it?
right? Thank you so much for having me on today here. I
You're so
appreciate it.
welcome. Thanks for coming. Have a great rest of your Monday. And for everyone else, thank you so much for being here today. I hope you learned a lot about small business strategy. Christy is amazing. I've really gotten to know her over the past year, and just her wealth of knowledge is incredible. I hope you will join me next week. Next week, we have a Twitter celebrity joining us. Alex Johnson of Farmers Insurance is joining us. If you're on Twitter, you may know her as Colfax Insurance. If there is ever a brand who is a real person, Alex is it. And we've brought her up on Twitter Smarter. We've brought her up on Content Chat. She just does a phenomenal job. I'm so excited to have her on the show, and I can't wait. I will be editing this and adding it to my YouTube channel. So go over there and find us, or you can tweet me. I'll send you the link. We are looking to grow our subscribers there, and we have a whole library of all of our past episodes. So join me there. Have a fantastic week, everyone. And until